Good morning, everybody. If you didn't know that the Ajahns were going to be gone, you might have been surprised to see somebody with a lot of hair up here. I'm Sue Zappel. I'm one of the assistant teachers in Seattle Insight, and I've been coming to Clear Mountain for a couple of years now. And the Ajahns very graciously asked me to hold the space and to do the guided meditation this morning. So it'll be a little different in that I will stand up in a minute and bow to the Buddha, and if you'd like to join me, that would be lovely. We're not going to be chanting this morning, but I'm going to start the guided meditation with some words from a chant. So we'll have a little bit of chanting without the up and down and without me messing up the Pali words. So welcome. The Ajahns are at the Pacific Hermitage this week. And they will be then at, they're going to be help building a kuti the following week. So next Saturday, we have a visiting nun from England whose name is Aya Brahmavara. And she's going to be coming in via Zoom. So we'll be back in the school gym. And I've never met this nun before, but the monks invited her, and I think it'll be a lovely, lovely time. So we have a couple other announcements, Gary, and is this sound better with, okay, thank you we had done a little sound check before and now it's better. And feel free to do something like this if, so to just let you know what this morning is going to be like, we'll have a regular guided sit. And then we're going to do what has become a tradition in Clear Mountain of community share. So the reason there's a second chair here is I'll move over and people who feel so inclined are invited to come up and share with the whole Sangha what brought you to the practice or what's really up for you right now in your practice. And we give everybody between 3 to 5 minutes, and we all practice really deep listening. And then there's always the invitation at the end of the morning to go up to anybody who has shared and just thank them. And if you are feeling especially shy and you think, well, I'm not going to go up there, remember that we all benefit from hearing how different ones of us have come to the practice. So Gary, do we need a microphone for you, Gary?
It's a small room that echoes, and it's only meaningful for here because this is recognizing the traceability to us and generously by people. And so there is a double box on the table by the front door for anybody who wants to express gratitude for this hosting that they do.
Thank you, Gary. And one other announcement. Some of you knew Gene Canning. He was a longtime member of Seattle Insight and used to come to Clear Mountain as well and died a few weeks ago. We're having a memorial for Gene this afternoon at Seattle Insight, which is right near the University Bridge. We're in the garden level of University Friends, and it's from 3 to 4:30 this afternoon. So with no other announcements, I think the first thing that happens when we come to Blodell Hall is how much we appreciate these chairs as opposed to the ones that make you slump. The first 3 lines of the Metta Sutta, I'd invite everybody to find your comfortable seat, feeling your uprightness of body and the uprightness of mind and heart, and listening to these 3 first lines of the Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. These words are sent to each of us. We here gathered in this Sangha are skilled in goodness and know the path of peace. Often when you start your meditation or at some point during the sit, there may be these words that show up. Oh, my mind just never quiets down. I don't know if I can ever do this. How am I ever going to go on a retreat if I can't even sit still for 30 minutes? It's that sneaky 5th hindrance of doubt that lurks out there and finds its way in. So this morning, as we're sitting in stillness and in community, I invite you to, when those kinds of words, those kinds of doubts show up, to replace them with these words from the sutta, from the Metta Sutta. I am a person who is skilled in goodness and know the path of peace. In our practice this morning, I encourage us, I invite us to feed those kinds of words. Perhaps take a minute to reflect on some of your simple acts of kindness or compassion or generosity that you've committed this week. Maybe that smile you gave to a stranger, the offer to help someone carrying a heavy package, the sweet way you spoke to a child or your partner, friend, or acquaintance. When you find those memories, don't brush them aside or minimize the importance. You, me, we are all people skilled in goodness. Let those images, those memories of your acts of kindness, just percolate. Just hang out there, filling your heart and mind. And then if you are so inclined, ask yourself, what ways do you see yourself as someone who knows that you are on a path of peace? How strong is your Dharma practice? Do you find that the words of the Dhamma just kind of sneak into your day, into your mind and heart, almost without any effort? Has your life changed since you've begun your practice? Do you have a different understanding of the words path of peace in ways that you maybe didn't understand when you first started? Here we are together this morning, all of us with the intention to meditate, to find that those places of quiet, to realize that we are able to settle, to invite the quiet, the peaceful. we gather and set our intentions for that uprightness, that relaxation. The intention to notice when, instead of relaxed, tensions arise. We notice them. We notice when the mind becomes chatty and distracted. We notice when the body feels squirmy and restless. But with that same sense of kindness, because we are people who are practiced and skilled in goodness, we bring ourselves back with gentleness, no judgment, just awareness that for a moment I was lost, distracted, restless. Now we're back and we can begin again. We find our anchor, breath, body sensation, sound, mantra, whatever works for you. And perhaps starting with these words from the Metta Sutta, we incline our minds and hearts toward kindness, towards goodness and well-being. And that comes from being on the path of peace. We connect with our hearts, places that we can trust in our inclination towards goodness, kindness, and ease. No judgmental messages laying around there, just the truth of the moment, sitting in Sangha with others who are also skilled in goodness and know the path of peace. Breathing in, we know we are breathing in. Breathing out, we know we are breathing out. We settle in the breath, knowing the body breathes all on its own. Settled like this, we watch as the mind seduces us and takes us off into a story. When awareness clicks in and we know that's what's happened, we just come back to the breath, come back to the body breathing itself. We who are skilled in goodness and know the path of peace. When you really take that in, reflect on your practice, your commitment to your practice, your commitment to doing no harm in the world. It builds a kind of confidence, a kind of faith in the practice, a verified faith. So that when that sneaky hindrance of doubt comes in, it's met with a more solid foundation of, no, I've got this. I'm a person skilled in goodness. I know the path of peace. I have a commitment to my practice. The Dharma is alive in my life. Then doubt doesn't have a footing, no place to really land and grow. It's going to keep coming back. But we have all of us in this community, members of this Sangha, who can also help remind us. We are all skilled in goodness and know the path of peace. The Way It Is, a poem by Lynn Unger. One morning, you might wake up to realize that the knot in your stomach had loosened itself and slipped away, and that the pit of unfilled longing in your heart had gradually, and without you really noticing, been filled in, patched like a pothole. Not quite the same as it was, but good enough. And in that moment, it might occur to you that your life, though not the way you planned it, and maybe not even entirely the way you wanted it, is nonetheless persistently, abundantly, miraculously exactly what it is. The Way It Is by Lynn Unger. Isn't it lovely to practice together? It's lovely to practice at home alone too, but there's something pretty special about this. So how many people have experienced the community share before? Let's see hands. So some of you know about it, and I've been to a couple of them. It's really a lovely experience to just put more than just the name tag to the face and the experience of how did people come to the Dharma. So I'd like to invite folks to come up. What we're going to do is you're going to sit here so that people on Zoom can actually see you. And I'm going to move over. And the Ajahns have suggested that if you've already told your story, perhaps wait and let others who haven't to step forward. But if there's time, come and share it again. I don't know about your memory, but I'm sure I'd be happy to hear it again. And so I told my story once a couple years ago, but I'll get it started. I was raised in a Jewish family with a secular parent, but a very religious grandfather. We called him Papa. And Papa called me his little Rebbitzin, which is like baby rabbi, because boy, did I jump in with both feet to that spiritual tradition. And I did that for quite a while until I had a falling out with God. I think lots of people in their teens have that experience. And then I spent about 20 years looking, and I did a lot of looking in a lot of places. And then 42 years ago, my older sister, who was also my best friend, her name was Nancy, died. And 2 weeks later, I went to Brighton Bush for a death and dying Buddhist retreat with Stephen Levine. And I remember sitting in the meditation hall. I think it was his second talk. And I had this sense of having come home. All of my looking around and going to different teachers and places and traditions was gone and done. And that started my path. And then when Seattle Insight started 28 years ago, I joined and have been part of it for all these years. And 8 or 9 years ago, I was invited to take the Dharma seat. So for those of you who sit in study groups and you facilitate a gathering and a discussion, when our founding teacher, Rodney Smith, came to this study group I was in, and he said, okay, no more facilitating, take the Dharma seat. And there's something pretty major that happens when you look inside and go, well, what do I know about this? And then you're willing to look at it and express it and share it with others. So my practice has really deepened in these last 8 or 9 years as being one of the assistant teachers and running Sunday mornings. That's my little story to share. Thank you for listening. So I'm ready to move over. And I'd like to invite anybody who would like to come. It looks like maybe somebody's getting a drink of water before she's gonna come join us, or not. Sorry. Whoever wants to. Please. And just remember to hold the mic pretty close to your mouth. Introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Nicole. Thank you so much for your talk. A little closer. I really felt when you said you felt like you had come home within Buddhism. I first started my journey with Buddhism when I was in high school, my sophomore year. No one in my family was, but I was lucky enough to live overseas in Japan and got a little more exposed to it. Since I was quite young, I've struggled with a lot of different anxiety issues and mental health, etc. issues. And I guess I never really felt a true like peace, just always rambling in my head, as anxiety does. But going into Buddhism, I found my first little glimpse of peace. And since then, I've not stepped away. So I guess I've been on this journey for about 5 years, and I continue to learn more about myself, and there's so much more to learn, but overcoming certain emotional trauma responses or a beating heart in my chest, to kind of understand, separate with a healthy distance these overwhelming emotions that come up throughout life has been a real blessing in my life that Buddhism has been able to connect for me. And yeah, so that's something I greatly appreciate, focusing on my breath and many other skills. And also the community has been very supportive. And so I'm happy to be here in person with everyone and online. And yeah, thank you.
Shall we save our sadhus for the end when we give 3 really big ones? Okay. Speaker on the table. So Cheryl, would it be okay to put the speaker on the table? Okay, thanks for that suggestion. Takes a village, huh? To make this all work. Anyone else? Please.
Sure, kind of soups in a little bit. Okay. My name is Christopher. I'm relatively new here. I started last year, coming to this group. My journey began when I was in middle school. I was about in the 8th grade or so. I got involved in meditation on my own journey. And I kind of got into meditating daily for the whole year. During that time, it was very a lonesome journey, simply because the people that I was in school with weren't really all that enamored with or even familiar with meditation. And my meditation practice was something I guess I developed it just by I'm not exactly sure when it started, but I spoke to a neighbor at the time that was into Eckankar, and I was growing up in South Florida, Miami, and my family was in Texas, and that's where I originally was born in Austin, and I grew up most of my life in Miami, Florida. And then from there, I went to art school in New York, and then from New York back to Texas and Dallas for about 10 years. Was never brought up in any sort of formal doctrinated religion. My family's Christian, United Methodist in that way. I've always been a seeker of different practices, from metaphysics, New Age kind of approaches to understanding different concepts such as astral projection or OBE, out of body experiences, near-death experiences, that kind of thing. And my journey's been primarily, solitaire. And I feel that when I come here, I find that there's something really nice about this community, and it's really touching. And I've struggled with mental health issues as well growing up, from the 8th grade on. And my connection to my higher self in these times of turmoil, I've struggled a lot with mood swings and other things. Not surprising as an artist, right? Yeah, for me, I find that, especially this morning, when I meditated, last week was very good for me. This week is a little bit emotional. I find that it was at meditate today, and just off and on, there's an emotional quality that this morning I felt on my right side for some reason, and I just listened to it, and I just allow it to be, because I remember that I need to be kinder to myself. I need to be gentle with myself, and so killing myself with kindness and gentleness, and not literally try to squash the emotions. Just let them be how they are, and I continue to come here, and thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Sweet message for all of us to remember that kindness. I have a Dharma teacher who used to visit often. Her name is Heather Martin. She teaches on Salt Spring Island. And she's the one who first introduced me to this there, honey. And the there, honey is a really nice gesture to give to yourself when those hard times are up, externally and internally. Please join.
So I wanted to say thank you to Suze for running the themes for so long, and definitely has been helping a lot of people. I have a little triple gem for you and a little note. Thank you. Yeah, so very happy to be here today, and my name is Sid, and I will not. I went through once in one of the past experience sharing thing, like how I got into Dharma. But I wanted to invite a conversation with my friends here after this. Have anyone have found the ideas of like what is rebirth? And like meditation seems to like maybe just like sitting down, but how does it that helps you with your healing or your mood? How does it makes you happier? I have come to some conclusion, and I have been greatly benefited from the Buddhist tradition and the meditation and the loving kindness practice. But if anybody who have kind of like have an understanding of or come to an what is rebirth to you, how does a simple act like sitting down in meditative posture, how does it help you? I would love to talk with you. Just wanted to say that. But yeah, Buddhism has been a great blessing for me. I was born and raised in a Muslim family. I was very religious growing up. And then came to America for my PhD. And then I got exposure to many other things, Christianity, Buddhism, and then this is something that I found the most there is. Uh, I'm also a scientist in profession, so something that I found that would work the best for me, and it has been tremendously helpful. And it was a wonderful blessing to see so many wonderful people here, especially Suze and other people, Bonnie over there, and many other friends here. It has been truly a blessing. Thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for being my friend. Don't forget to read my note. Please.
Please. And then.
Hey everybody, my name's Alec. I'm relatively new to this community. I've only been coming for about a month, but I've really been enjoying it. I also grew up Jewish. I swore it off right after my bar mitzvah at 13. I was done with all religion, and actually first came to Buddhism more from an academic perspective when I was in college. Took some classes and I found that it really pulled me in. And that actually led to me spending a couple of summers living in Dharamsala in India. And I found that that was really just the most at home I felt with myself ever before or since then, and really cemented some things for me at that time. But then over the following years, going into medical training really pulled me away from that. I think developed a significant alienation from my spiritual self and sort of lost that sense of who I was. And more recently, I think the amount of exposure I've had to other people's suffering on a daily basis has really highlighted my own relationship with my own suffering. And I've been very grateful to come to this community within the past month just to sort of come home to that experience. And today in particular, feeling very grateful. I literally came here from working an overnight shift at the hospital. And as I was walking out, I was thinking how nice it was going to be to come here as a sort of way of resetting and coming back to a very different part of myself than I'm typically encouraged to bring out in the settings I spend most of my time. So yeah, very grateful to be a part of this community and looking forward to continuing to participate moving forward.
Thank you, Al. Okay. My name's Tessa. There weren't any more bands, so that's my name. And when I was younger, I used to be a camp counselor at Camp Orkyla on Orcas Island, and it's a very special place for me. And when I look back now, I think in large part because there were these shared values, as well as taking care of kids and community and being in really beautiful nature. And a tradition there is called a rag ceremony, where you set a goal every summer. My goal was to be more compassionate. And that brought me to Karen Armstrong's book, 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life, which then brought me to Sharon Salzberg's Loving Kindness book. And that book completely changed my life. I really didn't know much about Buddhism. I knew nothing about metta or loving kindness. And it's like, all right, like I'm into this. But I felt way too scared to actually meditate. So I read about Buddhism for like 5 years. And eventually my friend had volunteered and farmed at this yoga meditation center in Thailand. And I was traveling to Southeast Asia and she was like, you need to go here, you would love it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'll have to meditate. And I was like, okay, like here it goes. So I went, and the first morning was like a 6 a.m. meditation for 45 minutes. And it was my first time ever meditating. And I was like, let's go. And the teacher was just like, now we sit. And that was all the instruction for my first 45 minutes. And I hated it. But I think there was like somehow enough faith that it was good. And that was, I think, 2017. And I've had a regular practice since then, in large part due to Seattle Insight, and an under 40 group with Carrie Peterson. And it's completely changed my life. And I feel very fortunate to have found Clear Mountain as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Tessa. I wanted to let people know that there are 3 Westerners who started Insight Meditation Society in Barre, Massachusetts: Jack Kornfield, Joseph Goldstein, and Sharon Salzberg. And each of them has offered to do a fundraising talk for Seattle Insight. A month ago or a few weeks ago, Jack Kornfield showed up. It was on Zoom, but we gathered in person to listen. Sharon Salzberg is the next one. And so if you go on the seattleinsight.org website, you will see the date. And actually, if I get my date book out, I can tell you. And then it's coming up soon. And then Joseph Goldstein's is in the new year. And they'll be on Zoom, but we'll be gathering in person. And Sharon is a wonderful teacher to be with. Thanks, Tessa. And I think we're doing great with time, so we've got time for people to share. And we also have time to continue sitting. Oh, please. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dandelion. I'm also on the new side to both this Sangha and Buddhism and meditation in general. I'm also part of the kind of secular Jews crowd. What up? And I grew up kind of without much of a spiritual identification and also without a ton of room in my worldview for spirituality. I was very on the kind of like rational, logical, and very mind, and maybe in retrospect, ego-oriented in how I perceive the world. And my first encounter with Buddhism was kind of a chance encounter with actually being present to a talk by the Dalai Lama. Because in my very mind-oriented quest, I got this internship with a billionaire who was friends with the Dalai Lama. So there were tickets to his talks in the office, and I was like, I'll check this out. And I remember being very impressed by him because of how much space, I kind of expected religions to be dogmatic, and I was very impressed by how much space and how much like joyful space he had for like science and knowledge. And it seemed like he was very not oppositional to the things I was centering, and that resonated with me. And many years later, after my mom passed, my dad got really into Buddhism, and then he married a woman who's really cool, who's also really into Buddhism. So I kind of had my like Dharma contingent on the family side. My dad also being the Jew, they're both Jewish. And about a year ago, I was in a place of great turbulence, and I think that I was kind of reaching my personal version of the end state of just like pursuing things that I want, but not really recognizing the underlying intentions and why I wanted them, and thereby surrounding myself with things that are kind of really good on paper and not actually that nourishing. And it coincided with a lot of lack of capacity for me to really like trust my own intentions or how I was moving through the world, and a lot of like turbulent doubt, and it was manifesting in, among other things, relationship instability. And I was really unhappy with that. And my stepmother suggested the idea of doing a meditation retreat. And I was kind of just like, some kind of shuffling this table, not flipping it over, but some kind of like shuffling and clearing up this table, even if it's something that I have no experience with and will probably find very uncomfortable. It seems great because I'm just very uncomfortable all the time. So like, why not mix it up? So I went to a 10-day retreat at Spirit Rock, and it was profoundly boring and uncomfortable. I thought of it as like, like Olympic training in boredom. But I also enjoyed it, especially in retrospect. But even at the time, there was the 10 days, I think, is long enough that you really have kind of no way out. Like on day 3, it's like this has been long, and like it's there's so much more of it to go. But I think really helped me slow down enough to see, I guess, for more of like my capacity to like care and build self-trust to kind of like come through if I'm not like so oriented on like trying to like the stickiness of all of the narratives that pop up, maybe. And so I left that feeling like I definitely wanted to do more. And I think I also left it learning that if I want to meditate, it really is helpful to have people around me doing the same thing and not just like have the idea that I'm going to sit and virtuously do it on my own. And my dad and stepmom had both passed through Clear Mountain at some point when they were visiting Seattle about a year ago. And so they told me about it. And then finally in May, I started coming here. And it's been one of those things where I've also found like, actually in the course of like letting go of a lot of the arrangements that were kind of like ego driven that I had made. And then it's like, it can be sticky to get out of things, just as like sticky to get in. And I found myself thinking of things that the Ajahns had said here on Saturdays about like making choices that allow you to let go most cleanly. And yeah, I think that in that way for me, like this practice has been like a very like subtle, low key form of life changing. Where it's just like, still my mind is kind of uncomfortable a lot of the time, but I have fewer sticky things that I'm holding on to. And I like coming here and learning. Yeah, that's my share.
Thank you, Dandelion. I loved your comment about the mind is sometimes not settled and a little sticky and all of that. Mara never stopped visiting the Buddha. Just tell him, yeah. That didn't mean that Mara got its grips in him, but the Buddha was visited after his enlightenment as well. So, this practice is such a long, it's all the breaths we have, we're in practice, and the process of discovery. And so at Seattle Insight, we're doing the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path this year. And this month is on right livelihood. I'm actually giving the talk tomorrow morning and asking people, who actually shows up at work with you? Who are you when you come to work? And you bringing up the issue of boredom made me look at what's the Dharma say about boredom? And there's this Burmese teacher, Tajaniya, you can sign up for his daily teachings. And he recently said around boredom, there are no two moments that are exactly the same. And we are so addicted to stimulation and things being interesting and something for us to look at more or go to see something. And when I read that no two moments are the same, no two breaths are the same. And when we really practice our mindfulness with that kind of curiosity, well, what's here in this breath? What about the next one? That when you really focus like on the breath, it's interesting how some of them are a little raspy, little rough. Others are so smooth on its own. There's a deepening and then there's a shallowness. And that's, the teaching on the practice of breath meditation is really pretty amazing when you get into it. And not to call you out on about the boredom, because we've all had that experience, but just that it was up in my mind. Anybody else? We've still got we've still got time. First timers or second timers, please. After I teased you about you finding your seat this
When I
morning.
did, I looked at that as motivation.
Okay.
I'm John. I'm sort of in and out in the community. I've been to a few of the Clear Mountain retreats, which I've over in Twist, which I've enjoyed very much. I guess my thought this morning is that the summers sort of take me away from time where I can be available on Saturday mornings. And I spend a lot of time on the bike, and I spend a lot of time with Cascade Bicycle Club, which is, there's my little plug, like, you know, the free group rides and leading those. So if you're one of the slow kids, I could be one of your leaders. So that's what I spend my Saturdays doing. And so now I've sort of opened up the time for me to sort of come back, which I've been looking forward to, but I'm reminded that in my sort of better moments, which happen occasionally, not all the time, but I think, okay, so what do I need to stay centered? What do I need personally, right, to sort of outrun the demons? What do I need to sort of keep myself regulated, to coin a term? And I always come back to sit, bike, work, right? Like those are the three things where if I can remember to center and do that. And so, and the sitting thing is, you know, every day is a new day. Like there's always something else I could be doing, and oddly enough. So I do find that, and every time I come back to it, and every time I make space for it, it takes some effort, and it takes some consciousness, and it pays off for me. And what I have seen and this is not some big existential thing, I promise you, but what I have seen in the last, I don't know, 60 days is I've sort of drifted away, maybe 90 if I was gonna be honest, which I'm not gonna be. If I look at the last 60 days, and as I sort of drifted a little bit off course, no, I wouldn't say off course, just I'm not on the mat, right? As much as I would like to say I am. I'm more reactive. I'm more inclined to sort of pattern match for those things I don't like. I'm more inclined to be, I always think about there is a long and growing list of things that I do not like, which are still true. And I call it a list by John. So I find that I'm out looking for things to add to that list. And that, you know, if I take my time, and I'm not investing hours a day, but if I can spend my 20 minutes or a half hour, or 45 minutes on the mat, I create that space for myself to, between the call and response, between the reactivity. And again, in my finer moments, I like to think that it makes me a better partner, it makes me a better person, it makes me more conscious of ways in which I can be more compassionate with the people that I'm with and I'm surrounded by. And I'm more patient. Maybe, I don't know, I have to ask somebody else, but I feel like I'm more patient and can sort of sit with, right, without having to sort of be judgmental. So we'll see. I don't know. Tomorrow's another day, but I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you for your honesty, as everyone has shared. Just want to also remind people that Seattle Insight offers both a Tuesday morning and a Thursday morning drop-in sit. It's on Zoom, but if even in the middle of the week, you're kind of, oh, it'd be so much nicer to sit with other people. And there's somewhere between a dozen, maybe sometimes close to 20. One of our guiding teachers, Tim Guile, generally leads the Tuesday morning sit from 9 to 9:45. And a variety of us assistant teachers and local Dharma leaders lead the Thursday morning. You'd be very welcome. And sometimes they're pretty familiar faces, and then we always get brand new folks, sometimes from back east, who join at whatever their clock time is. So just looking at this clock. Oh yeah, we still have time before the blessing brave and all that. Anybody else brave enough to share? It's really helpful to learn how people have come here and what's up for them, and that theme of it's not always easy to stay with our commitments to practice. And it's not surprising that Sangha is one of the three jewels. When we bow 3 times, we're bowing to taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And the Buddha was quoted many times as saying spiritual friendships are the best. He didn't, that wasn't the phrase, but that's, it's kind of the meaning. Yeah. Thanks, Brianna.
It's a nice smaller group today, so this feels good. I have spoken before, but it's been a few years now. So I feel like this is okay, and it'll probably be something very different because I'm a different person. So hi everyone, I'm Brianna. It's nice to see all of you. And this feels like a really nice, cozy fall space here for some reason today. It feels nice. I feel a little bright for it, but with all the white, but so I was one of those kids that was always in existential crisis and was like, do you know we're gonna die? And everyone would call me weird and ask if we could talk about something else. But so I was always kind of squirmy and anxious and feeling like something was wrong and no one knew it and I wanted to figure it out. And I had insomnia and I would stay up really late, just spiraling, thinking about like, what happens though when we die? Like what actually, like we'll just be dead. And I would just obsess about it. And I had a lot of darkness in my life. I had nightmares and like I said, insomnia and just things going on in life that were heavy and hard. And so I would get in these spirals, but I was really curious and wanted to figure it out. And that kind of carried forward. I didn't know that was a spiritual thing. I did try Christianity. My family wasn't Christian, but I tried it and it didn't last too long. And then it wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I read a book by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth, which I highly recommend because I was interested in finding out about the ego. And that just totally changed my life. And I started meditating immediately. And I started practicing with the voice in my head that I had now discovered that was judgmental and arrogant and all these things. I was probably a little harsh at the beginning. And so I did that for years. I meditated and practiced. And I remember the first time I opened the kitchen door and a yogurt container, you know how that happens in slow motion. I saw it falling and it hit the ground and exploded everywhere. And this was years of practice. And I just watched it. And then I looked at it and I was like, God, this works. And that really, like, I still think about that moment often of like, you know, like just the curses that would have come at other points in my life and the, you know, like the, like, probably many combination curses and like, you know, just that feeling of like, oh, you know, that I have to clean this up. So that moment sticks out as an important moment. But then since then, it's just increased in intensity. I actually went through, I wasn't really Buddhist at the beginning. Jack Kornfield was a main part of my meditation practice, but I was exploring everything. And then I became a witch for a while, which was a really good year of my life. That was an important part, more of an esoteric witchy year. Lots of rituals, lots of things that were really helped me grow. And then I did a Buddhist retreat and came out of it like, okay, I'm actually a Buddhist for sure. And then that just continued to grow. And so I found Clear Mountain shortly after doing a couple retreats and sort of settling into my Buddhist identity, and have grown with Clear Mountain and gotten more serious in my Buddhist practice and also in my renunciation. I've been on the 8 precepts for just over a year now, and in this form. I wear white all the time, and buzz my hair and sort of do something a little different. And I'm so much happier. You know, I've given up a lot. I gave up my career and simplified my life. I live in a van. I have very little money. And I'm like so much happier than I ever was. And so I want to continue going down that direction. And it's not the same for everyone. Everyone's package is different. This is my sort of karma. But it is encouraging when you find peace in the things that are written in the books that say, you know, you give up lesser happiness for greater happiness. And I feel like I've tasted that a little bit. So that's my journey. Thank you.
Thank you. The Buddhist phrase ehipassiko, which is see for yourself, always shows up in my mind how much I appreciate that part of our practice, not the dogmatism. It's ehipassiko. We still have time. And this is being lovely. Please. You just met last week.
Nice to see you again. Hello, my name's Isaiah. I've been coming for a very short period of time. I think this is my third visit, I can't remember. But so far my journey, which I would define as the last 3 times that I've come here and I've sit quietly for 20 minutes, that would be my practice right now, which has been very nice. If it has a start, I would probably define it 6 or 8 years ago, just start listening to very old general recordings of some guy named Ram Dass who does a lot of work and these very like deep spiritual talks, and getting probably not obsessed, that wouldn't be the word, but just very interested in the kind of general and vague grand idea of like doing work and doing work with different things, positive and negative things in your life. I just turned 30 this year. Yeah, so I'm not very old, which is nice, but coming into a lot of changes, a lot of big life changes, good and bad. And I've known about a lot of things through Buddhism and Hinduism and a lot of different religions for a long time, but there's been no work with those things. And I find that at a certain point, if you do no work, or if I do no work on myself, with other people, spiritually, emotionally, where does that kind of leave you? I got a horrible knee injury 2 years ago. My back hurts sometimes. My job is very toxic. I've had a lot of life changes with friends very recently. And if you don't put any work into those things that happen to you, or those things that happen to your community around you, where are you kind of left? Where are you at? Do you move forward with those things? Do they change you? Do you think about them? Or are they just negative, toxic things that happen to you with no result? And not to be negative, also with the positive things, the good things that happen to you in your life, the new people that come into your life, which I've had quite a few in the last year, the really positive, amazing coincidences you run into. What work do you do with those things? And so sort of the Buddhist framing has always been really good of taking time, quieting yourself. And then even though I've only come a few times, it's been really good to, again, think about the work that I can do with those things in my life and with other people in their lives, and the listening and the talking I can do with people. So that has been where I'm at. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Isaiah. Thanks for that reminder that the practice involves doing. All of us could provide each other a list of all of the things that we've been working on. And sometimes what we do is we set that list aside and see what happens. So there's some of that as well. That time for another. Thanks, Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl, and I've sat here before, but I actually wanted to talk about something. One of the ways that I came to this practice, I didn't really know that I was coming to this practice, was like in the 90s maybe. There were a lot of, the internet was still kind of young, but there were a lot of offerings from people who were teaching mindfulness. But but it was just mindfulness. And I didn't know about Buddhism at the time, although I was traveling to Buddhist countries and I was, visiting temples and doing all this, but I didn't have a sense of the practice. It felt like a religion that I didn't really understand. And, like the trappings were really cool, but, and last night, the reason I'm here is last night I saw a movie called Awakening Worlds, I think. Yeah. And what was missing there? It was all about, all you have to do is this, and you will be awakened. And there was no community. There was no, the most important thing about practice to me is Sangha. And it was missing. And in a time when we're being bombarded with AI and all this other stuff, where we don't know what our future is going to look like, community is more important than ever. And I felt like they were kind of ripping off the audience by not going there, by just saying, all you got to do is point your mind in this direction. Like, yeah, sure. How am I going to do that? Talking about work. I mean, this takes work. It takes work. Yeah, lots of effort and really joyful effort and sometimes really hard effort, but the Sangha helps me get through it all. So I just wanted to share that. So thank you all for being here. And I love to end on if there's someone else who's eager, we don't have to end there. Just taking a moment to let all of this lovely sharing and exploration, the curiosity, the really wholesome desires, sometimes coming out of our own pain and suffering. I'm not sure many of us have come to the path through just joyful. I think a lot of us have come because we've been looking for how to navigate what can be a pretty challenging life. So we honor everyone's path, both those who've shared and the others who've remained quiet. And let's give 3 really resounding sadhus. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And Cheryl, do we have a blessing prayed this morning? Okay. You can do it. Let me just bring it up for you. There's only a few. Sorry. Take requests. They can still see you. Okay. But you're there. Can you read those? Yes, I can. Adeline Fleming suffered a stroke on top of other serious issues. Please send blessings for peace, comfort, and healing. Thank you. This comes from her daughter. Sahayako, beloved dog going through health difficulties associated with chemo, coming from Sukavaho and the Ajahns. Carlos Zagur's brother who recently succumbed to addiction while doing his best to help others. Coming from Martins. Abhamato Dhammo, seeking ordination, please chant for a smooth path to Babaja. Going forth for life, may all beings look after themselves with ease. Yeah. Close this way
if there are others that people would like to mention, I once talked to the Ajahns about, is it really our place to bring up someone's name if they haven't given us permission to share their names publicly? But you could just say friend, which I'm going to. There's a dear friend in Seattle Insight who's going through a cancer treatment, but I'm not going to say her name. Anyone else? And if you speak loudly, I'll then repeat it. Please. Scott going through cancer. Sid.
For a lot of our friends, I do not mention their name, but
Starvation, illness, the threat of having their homes destroyed. So much suffering out there in the world. This would be a good time for us to do the dedication of merit. We acknowledge and appreciate the sincerity and commitment of all those who've come here to practice on this path of Dhamma. May the merit of our practice be dedicated to the well-being of everyone who's here in this room and on Zoom, to everyone in our wider communities, to all those who are struggling and in distress, and to all those beings in the world. May all beings know peace and ease. May all beings be free of suffering. It's a tradition at Clear Mountain to invite anyone who's here for the first, second, or third time to say their name and tell us how you've heard about us. And if you'd like to. Please. Hi, Nathan, welcome. And thanks to your friend for bringing you. We actually have about 9 minutes. So it's always lovely to quiet down after a sit and a discussion and to just feel what happens to our minds and hearts when we've been practicing deep listening, when we've allowed ourselves to really be touched by the lives and experiences of others. Also, that we've allowed ourselves to be really touched by whatever has come up in our own meditation practice. The harshness, the softness, the troubles, the stickiness, the doubts, the confidence, all the full spectrum of experience. So for these last few minutes, let's just sit and with gratitude for this practice, gratitude for the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, this opportunity to come together, to quiet, to share words with each other that bring us back to understanding what's really important in our lives, working with that often challenging relationship between the conditioned things in the world that are so seductive and sticky that we chase after, and the deeper knowing inside of where true happiness can lie. It is said that the Buddha was really drawn to teaching because he watched people who wanted to be happy, but continued to do all kinds of things that were never going to lead them there. Boy, I don't know about you, but I can sure identify with that description. And here we are, just grateful for being on this path together. Bye to everybody on Zoom. Thank you for joining us today. And I didn't see anybody's hand up who wanted to share with the community story, but maybe the next time. Oh, they wouldn't. Oh, okay. We couldn't have done it anyway. So, okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. And Gary, what do we need to do in terms of cleanup here?
Make sure you put the chairs back onto the cart. And people, there are several boxes that will be repacking of our supplies. And so anybody who can help us take them back over to the gym where we store them, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Feel free, not only feel free, but actually I invite you to go up to those who have shared their story and say thank you. And next week, we'll be back in the gym. Yes.
Everyone, you can hear me? We're still being live streamed, and I'm waiting for them to end it so we can have our privacy. Let me do a chat message. Or maybe as host, I can do it. I don't think so. No. Maybe from the more